Okay, Jason, we just want to talk about the trailer.
The messy trailer.
You guys had seen some of the pictures by now when it came in and some of the things we wanted to do, but I don't know, what do you think? We're about halfway through of all the changes?
Yeah, I think we're about halfway. So far, we've got the inverter's been installed, which we'll have some footage we'll show of that. We installed
and all of the
batteries. Yeah, all the charging systems. So we're running 2 lithium 12-volt batteries, Epochs, which are going into 24 volts, which is running our inverter system, which is all 24 volts. And then we have a step-down converter, which is by Victron, which gives us back to 12 volts because that's what all our lighting is. So we did all of that. The electrical is probably, I don't know, what do you think? We're probably 90% done. We have the generator hookup yet to do, which is the red, green, white, and black wire you see dangling there from the bottom of the inverter. But we really rarely are probably gonna need to run generator because we're either gonna be hooked up to, most of the racetracks have power there, 50 amp, or if we have the bus there, we have power because we have generator there, or we can, obviously power just straight from the bus. So we went ahead and installed this refrigerator. So this is great. This is supposed to be enclosed, so they will be enclosing it. They're supposed to pick up the trailer here within a week. So it has a nice, fascia like the rest of the cabinets there. So we went to a track day already. We took only 3 tanks, which is funny. We thought that was gonna be enough. Kris, how many times did you go to the fuel station?
I went all 3 times.
Every day, sometimes multiple times. Didn't you go like twice?
I went twice the first day.
So you can get fuel at the track. Most tracks have fuel. Problem is their 93 fuel, which is what we run in the Mustang, is, I think it was $9 a gallon there, which, look, I'm not, I got money, I'm spending it, but $9 a gallon, and we went through, I don't know, 60 gallons, probably 70 gallons, something like that. So you're better off to bring fuel because it's also a pain in the butt. You got to go there and fuel up. The car only holds 16 gallons. That's only good for maybe 45 minutes on the track. 16 gallons, 45 minutes. You get the idea. We only had these 3 here that we originally did. We just added this rack, reinforced it. Obviously big brackets on the bottom, went into the frame. This one we didn't actually, we need to put some more screws in there because we were temporarily doing it, but it's not moving. It's screwed into the wall. This one is straight into the frame, into studs essentially, which are aluminum studs. This is an E-track and then to a stud here. And then we also have L brackets that are underneath that are attached into the studs. Studs are every 16 inches, similar to a house, so that's how we did it. There is no stud on this side, but we really don't need it, we're good. And then we have another rack, which is gonna go right here. So we actually carry 9, and these actually hold, they call them 5.5 gallons. They actually hold 6 gallons as long as they're not gonna be out in the sun and super hot, which these won't ever be. So we essentially got 6 gallons a piece times 9, plus the car holds 16 gallons. So we should be good for a 3-day event for the most part. That's engine oil, so that holds 12 quarts, which is the car uses, I think it's 10 or 11, something like that. So we got a full oil change worth of stuff there. Pretty neat, you can actually put an empty one of these here. And then obviously that funnel would go in there, and then that's if you're ever got a little bit of oil of something you need to dump out, you can just pour right in there and it would go into an empty one. Don't have an empty one now because we're about to do the first oil change on the car in the next couple days. We have 900 miles on it. It wants an oil change.
3 track days.
And 3 track days, which 500 of those miles is track days, so it wants an oil change. And we're gonna do diff fluids. We gotta do a few things. Moving back, nothing too exciting here. Tables, we actually bought something better to be able to attach those. We gotta play with that. We actually brought that today, so we're gonna figure that out. It's nice having tables there. That's cable management. Like I said, we're having to run 50 amp cable between the bus and the trailer. And so if we're in a position where people need to be able to walk or drive over that cable, we don't want people tripping or ruining wires. This big old fan here we bought, the car was unfortunately, which we're working with Ford Performance right now to figure out why, but she was overheating engine oil, not coolant, but engine oil. So we got, I think that's a 8,300 cubic feet fan. It pushes a lot. In the meantime, while they're trying to figure it out, we're gonna keep running. Obviously, we're not gonna overheat the vehicle. We're gonna keep an eye on it. In between tracks, or in between sessions, we'll put that in front of the vehicle and get her cooled down in between. Last time, we weren't overheating the first sessions. It was usually towards the end of the day. So our heat was building up as the day went on. But then as you run it harder, and as the day heats up, you start off, it's totally cool, right? It's 90 degrees, your first session. And then at 150, 160, and then it might cool, but every time it's incrementally getting hotter. We gotta figure out why it's happening. We're at this point trying to figure out if A, it is a inherent defect that's with this dark horse. All dark horses, that they're just overheating if you're pushing them like a real race car on a track, which hopefully that's not the case. Or if the other option is we have something defective on our vehicle that is causing an issue. So we're trying to figure out what that is. I actually called regular Ford our dealership and talked to them, and they told me I should not be taking my car to a track. It's not built for tracks, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, it literally has the track package, we've paid for it. They run these at track days. Ford has their own track school with these cars. So I contacted Ford Performance, which is actually who builds these, and they agreed 100% should not be overheating, shouldn't be having a problem, but they're gonna get me in charge of whoever's in charge of that department for Dark Horse, and it's been a week. Haven't heard back yet.
So just to recap, day 1, no overheating. Day 2, rear diff had overheating but did not cause any faults. And then day 3, you had high oil temperature, which did cause a reduction in power and a fault. And then you were able to finish one more race, but even then, it still got too hot.
It was struggling. The unfortunate thing is, these are my first 3 track days, so I probably was not watching gauges as good as I should have been. So we got figured out. All right, Chris, you can tell us about the ramps.
Yeah, so we've got the race ramps. Obviously, coming down off of this bad boy, we were at, I want to say 14.7 degrees of inclination coming off of a level surface, and I think 7.6 feet total length. But the car, being that it has that front air dam and the chin splitter, it needed 6.3 degrees. These ramps allow us to bring our ramp to a 5.5 degrees on a level surface. So these were definitely needed. We're actually contemplating whether or not to get the extension pieces, which are gonna drop that even lower. It's just a matter of whether or not we're gonna make any suspension upgrades. If we do, if the car gets lowered even farther, or if we have any more aerodynamic changes, then we are going to have to elongate that ramp length so that we can get a less steep degree angle so that we're not hitting it every time we come in. That's one of the things that we had a complaint with our trailer people, because as this ramp goes down, this side was loose and the other side was tight, and so it's coming down at different angles, which was also causing us problems loading the ramp. The very first time, I had to go and pick up the car right after paint. I took it over to my shop, I went to go and load the car, and I think I spent 3 hours trying to get the car loaded because I was doing it by myself, and that side was always up. So another thing that they're gonna fix, and it should be a fairly easy fix. We were able to fix most of it there at the track right before we left. What are they, 7 pounds a piece? No, 7 pounds total.
I think it's 15 pounds per
Yeah, 15 between the two. They do slightly imprint, but they are extremely sturdy. At one point, I had the car up here, but then couldn't get any farther on the ramp until I could settle the ramp. So the car sat there and didn't make any imprint on it. The only imprints we've got right now are these, and it doesn't look like it's gonna make any more
from the ramp
problems.
For ramps, I think they're kind of expensive. I think they're, what, 600 bucks?
Yeah.
We could have built them probably way cheaper, obviously out of wood.
Yeah, you
who
could.
the hell wants to haul
Big old chunks of
$300,
yep,
300 pounds
6 by 6.
wood.
And they're wide space, so they give you a lot of fudge factor. This is another thing we just got, telescoping flagpole. It even comes with a flag. We're not using it to love America. Well, we are. We are going to use it to hopefully modify or upgrade our live streaming transmitter. Although we might not even need it now, because we found out that the GoPro Hero can live stream through YouTube, or, well, we tried it on GoPro's website.
We need 50 subscribers.
Yeah.
If you're watching this.
Tell some people, because YouTube won't let us live stream to ourselves yet until we get 50 subscribers. So, I mean, ultimately that's going to be the goal, is you guys can all follow along on this endeavor in every race and every tidbit that we want to show you guys.
And there was a few accidents.
Yeah,
so
there.
You never know what you're going to see. In fact, there was one right in front of me.
Run right in front of you. Yeah.
Which was super cool. We had a pole that was only like 10 foot.
It was 4 pieces of aluminum threaded that you threaded together. We just stuck our live streaming device. It has 4 antennas on it on top of that, and then we ran an HDMI cable down from that point. Originally, we tried it on the trailer. On the live streaming device on the trailer itself, I could get him racing around, and then only around the paddock area, and that was about it. Or when he was on the long stretch, and that's because we had an open sight to the top end stretch. Other than that, it was either digitalized or it had dropped out completely. So the next thing was put it on the pole, put it on the trailer. We attached it to the same thing that the awning arm is attached to, so we probably got it a good 10 feet off of the trailer. At that time, I got about 15% clear image of the car going around the track. And understand, Sebring, where you are at the paddock, you kind of get screwed by buildings right off the bat. The main strip where the hot pits are, and the stands above the hot pits that you can, like the boxes and the VIP, that building is directly between you and I'd say about 25% of the track. And then of course you go even farther and you got some hills and some bridges that go over the track. So there's a lot of dead zones from where we were sitting of just line of sight. So with antenna up about 15 feet, I'd say we got about 15% clear image. It would drop out, otherwise you have some very low resolution, but you could still see what was going on, all except for about 5% of the track. At some point, day number 3, we decided to put it on the RV, and I put it at the full extent on top of the RV, so now I'm 25 feet off the ground, and I attached it to the ladder. There was a mount for that situation. Attached it to the ladder, we had HDMI extender over Ethernet that we ran back over here, and we tied it into and an HDMI splitter. So we tied it into both the RV and the trailer at the same time, and it actually worked really good. I'd say we got about 35% of the track in high def, and then all but just when they would go by the hot pits, it would drop out every time, and then it would come back on, and then you would have grainy image at times. But for the most part, I'd say about 35% high def, we could all follow along. And it's amazing how much that is so much more entertaining for everybody else that's with you. It's one thing to watch you, it's one thing to go out to a corner, but it's totally different to see inside the car and to see them coming up on the turns and to see them passing people or people passing them, or like Jason said, he watched 3 different wrecks. One of them happened right in front. We all got to see it. I mean, the guy ended up taking a little too much off the top and cut right across the track. So anyways, that's the whole reason for the flagpole. Okay, just an explanation of our battery system here. We've got both of these Epoch batteries. They're 460 amp hours a piece. The battery and electronic systems hubby. We have our Victron Energy Quattro 2 inverter / charger, battery charger. The wires you see empty are for the generator. Generator's not installed yet, but we've got wires there. This will automatically sense the generator supply, shore power supply, and then load shed anything that needs to be shared. So whether it's you need more power from your batteries or you need more power from your generator or the shore, it does all of that automatically. Both of these Epoch batteries are 460 amp hours. We have them tied in series so that we get 24 volts to the inverter. This is just the most efficient way. Over here we're gonna have our inverter battery, the battery bank main battery shutoff switch. Then we have our Lynx shunt along with a Lynx distributor. That's just, the shunt is obviously so that we can verify current in, current out, and the distributor is gonna feed everything from the inverter to the main winch and the main DC panel. So right now all we have connected to it is this main DC. We're using a 6-circuit circuit breaker from Blue Sea. These are fantastic. We haven't labeled it yet, but we will. I've only labeled the wires. It has its own shared ground bus, so you can bring both the grounds and the powers to the same point, and everything can stay copacetic and together. Over here we have the Servo GX, which is gonna speak with the screen, and it's gonna take in all the Victron called VE CAN bus systems and the VE bus system. So it's just the communication. They have both Ethernet for their VE bus, which is just a generic Ethernet networking system, and the VE CAN is like a CAN bus system. Over there we have the Orion 70 amp DC to DC converter. So that's taking the 24 volts out of the batteries from this Lynx distributor and then feeding this circuit breaker panel with the 12 volts that runs everything in the trailer. We've created a bunch of heat, obviously, in this cubby hole, and we're gonna have a door that shuts. So we have our upper vent, which is just gonna vent out all the hot exhaust. And then down here, we haven't installed it yet, but we're gonna put in a 200 millimeter fan along with a grill that goes on the front side. So this will just get cut out. We'll put the grill on the front side. The fan will blow. It has a fan controller. It's gonna work at all times whenever there's AC power. So that way it doesn't necessarily drain the battery, and this will protect the battery if it ever does drain too much, but it'll only turn on if there's AC power and keep things cool in there. Then as you walk in and we look up, especially once they get this door flipped around, you'll see our Servo GX is connected to our Victron Energy panel. Here it's just going to show all of the power flow. So here it's showing that we're running on shore power. It's using 1800 watts. Right now we're connected to a 30 amp circuit breaker feeding the trailer. So it shows you line 1, line 2, exactly how much power you're pulling on each line. The inverter is 240, so it can pull from both loads, but the loads going out, the AC loads, are pretty much only on one line. It's pulling line 2 and then transposing that directly to the AC unit that's up on top. And then any of the charging will be shown as it goes back to the battery. Right now it's showing that we have a draw of 13 watts on the batteries. That's only because they're 100% charged, and the inverter is not going to give us any more power until they're dropped down low enough. We are running some DC loads like these lights. If you swipe, there's plenty more screens. We just have the same information written in different ways. It also tells you status of the battery system, whether it's float or bulk or absorption, or if it's in lithium, they really don't have a bulk absorption. They pretty much just have absorption. Down here we have AC current limit, which is extremely important for us. Sometimes we're going to pull on the bus. We're going to hook up a 30 amp breaker too, so we're only going to have a current limit of 30 amps. Here at the storage unit, whether we want to set that to 30, whether we want to, for example, on our first racetrack, we were plugged into just 110, just a 110 outlet on the bus, and we didn't want to overload that. So we were able to bring that down to 18 amps and never overload the outlet. And you can see here, him dropping it down on the amperage, it has a direct correlation to how much it's pulling from the shore. Yet, at the same time, you still have the same exact AC load output, which means that now we're pulling the amount that's not pulling from the shore, it's load shedding, and it's pulling the rest from the batteries. So right now we're pulling 880 watts out of the batteries. That's showing you exactly how many amps, so on and so forth. All because we changed it.
Yeah, and this is a huge deal for us because it allows us to be able to pull a ton of power on stuff and not be worried about what we're plugged into. These lithiums can put out a ton of power. We actually tested it, and I think with AC running and everything running in with our current setup was, I think 5 hours it could run the AC without being hooked into regular electric. So, you know, there may be some tracks we go to where we can only have a regular 15 amp, you know, regular household plug that we can plug into, which this AC would really struggle on running on just that. So having the ability to be able to adjust that, when the AC is running, it'll just pull the difference from the battery, and when the AC shuts off, like it hits temperature, then the 15 amps will use that surplus because the AC is not running to recharge the battery. So same thing if we have an air compressor pops on or something like that in a traditional inverter setup, it would just trip the inverter. It would trip your house power, which is how it used to be in regular motor homes and campers. I remember when I had campers when I was a kid growing up. If you turned on the AC and you ran too much, it would trip your main breaker in the house. This wasn't in existence yet. So super cool.
Another thing that we got going on is, and we haven't hooked them up, but the Servo GX that's down there in that cubby hole there actually has direct connections for tanks. So with this setup and this trailer, Jason also got the extra waste tank. So now we have a gray and a black, and we got the larger freshwater tank. So we'll be able to take senders on those 3 tanks, and all 3 of them will be listed there. There's so much more to do with this in itself. The Victron energy system, the Servo GX is Bluetooth, and so you see this screen in your app on your Bluetooth, and it's Wi-Fi, so once we get the network on this trailer, we'll be able to see it from anywhere. The Epoch batteries have a very nice interface for their Bluetooth because they come with Bluetooth all by themselves.
So this is the batteries, which it's nice. I mean, normally you don't have to look at this much, but the goal of it is to really make sure that your battery system is working properly, making sure that you're actually equalizing them essentially. Although they're lithiums, you don't necessarily have to equalize. But the goal of making sure that we're pulling evenly on both things. So this allows us to be able to see right here, batteries are at 99%. We have 2 batteries, they're both discharging right now. So if at our current situation right now, which I did I think at 8 amps, was our total that it was allowed to pull from the shore power, it says that we could run like this for 13 hours. 8 amps is nothing, a typical house plug is 15 amps. I just did that to be able to show the test, but it actually shows us all this information, which is nice. You can click into a battery.
I was just gonna say, the other thing is just the troubleshooting side of things.
Yeah,
you don't want to have to call somebody every time something goes wrong. To have this information and be able to troubleshoot a lot more of your devices, the batteries in this case, this is going to give you a secondary point of information that can then allow you to really troubleshoot something if there is something.
It tells us each of the cell voltages, tells us the temperatures of each cells. It's actually a very good system. This part is only Bluetooth, so you have to do it when you're at the battery. But the thing through the Victron that we were just showing the display, that is, we'll be able to see from anywhere. So the Toolbox is finally in the trailer, which is awesome. Some of you may have been following before. We were doing a ton of work. I'm just gonna open each drawer and show you in case you haven't seen already. We went through, this was after we ordered the trailer. Kris and I were biting at the bit to like do stuff. So this was something that we could do on our spare time. So obviously you can see we used a lot of spare time to do this. For the most part, should be almost every tool that we're gonna need, especially on a track day. I say that, but then when we went on the last track day, we needed a specific, I don't remember which one it was.
55.
Yeah, and we had to buy a whole set so that which we already have everything in here except for one.
We had a 40 and a 50 and then a 60, but we didn't have a 55 in the set that we bought. Yep. So we had to go out and get this whole set.
So now we gotta figure out where to put that to make it look pretty, but this is, I'm not gonna show you that drawer. That one's last. We still have some more space here, so there's wrenches. So we have multiple wrench ones. So this one's like our specialty. The wrenches we'll probably wanna use most of the time. Our ratchet style ones, main sizes, ones for brake line, stuff like that. These ones are just gonna be pretty much similar, all the same sizes, plus bigger ones. Shouldn't have to need these as much. These won't be your first ones that you're usually pulling. Anything pliers, cutting related as far as wire cut, stuff like that. This one is our probe and legit cutting, which actually, the neat thing is I forgot to put this in here the other day, and you can actually see it's missing. So there you go, you can see when something's missing, which is really nice. I mean, you see the scissors are missing, it's really easy to see something's missing. Going to track days, you know, there will be a lot of times we're pulling stuff out of the trailer, using it either on the bus, using it, letting someone borrow it that's in the paddock, and it really sucks if you have a lot of tools like this to keep track of them. Like, I don't want to have to keep track of them. So having this just makes it really easy. You go through the drawers, you immediately can see when something's missing. This one here is kind of a cool tool, or this one's just blades for Sawzall, but all the drills, all of our stuff, I mean, our big impact, everything very, again, organized. You'll be able to see if something's missing. Sockets, extenders, all that stuff, impact, more impact. Look at this little curly Q here, Kris did. I don't know, you ought to show that. See how the lock? Kris got real excited here. He actually even cut right around the lock. This one I think right now is not organized. This is just drill bits. This one here is our electrical. This really is not missing anything. That's just space for more tape. That one's our air tool stuff. We'll figure out what we'll do there. That's all new stuff. And I think we're down to pretty much nothing. So the junk drawer, I was teasing on. We keep having stuff that we keep bringing, so we do have a junk drawer. We will figure it out. So we got that, and then obviously this is nice. Yeah, this secondary junk drawer. This will get cleaned up. But what's really nice, you got charging in here, so you can have your lithium batteries, charging for your drills and all of that. And then this actually closes. This is just Home Depot special. Nothing fancy, but it's actually a really nice box. We did take the wheels off of it. We don't want this thing rolling around. I do want to point out, we mounted it. There is a gap here. This gap is not because of us. The toolbox is tight on the bottom. Unfortunately, this wall is not. The manufacturer didn't do it straight. At the end of the day, we don't really care too much. It doesn't really affect anything. You can't tell other than right here, but it is what it is. We did a full bracket on the bottom there we're holding. We cut this piece here. So she's held in pretty good. I mean, we got in the frame, we've already run it. We've tested it with, which you shouldn't do on a normal box that's with wheels, but we tested it, we opened every drawer. I mean, it doesn't budge. And that's a big thing you gotta worry about, especially being in a trailer. Obviously our goal is always to lock it, always. But if for some reason, and obviously if it's locked, nothing will open, but if for some reason we forget to lock it and we're driving and every drawer opens, I think it'll stay. I'm not gonna test it, but it could be a thing. It could be a thing. Over here, same thing, and then just two over here. One down at the bottom and then one on. So yeah, so she's in there, she's good. Again, removing the wheels wasn't too big of a deal, but it was very heavy. We had all the tools in it, so we had to take some blocks and lift on one side, and I mean, we did it, so. But yeah, that's the toolbox, which I think we're pretty proud of. Above it there, that's for helmets. So 2 helmets, and then we added this for, you know, WD-40 and all that stuff, which is funny, we need to put in there yet. We just don't have it. Did add a couple fire extinguishers. Got one here, right by the door. So obviously if you're right outside and there's a problem, you don't even have to get on the trailer to grab it. And then we did one at the back door, which is, you know, again, loading, unloading the car. This back door would be open. It would be easy to try and, you know, obviously get to. From the escape door, correct.
Something we plan to do soon is some simple speakers, just 6.5s that are going to go one in this corner spot. Stereo is going to go right up on top of this screen, and then we'll put the other speaker
somewhere here, and then we got 2 for outside too, with weatherproof.
2 on the outside.
With weatherproof stuff.
Will go on this wall somewhere. So.
Yeah, so that'd be nice. I mean, our goal, both of us are big music people. We like listening to loud music. This is not the purpose of this. This is just to have a little background hangout music. Kris keeps trying to talk me into, what's the name?
Soundbox.
Soundbox.
Oh, yes.
Which, hey, maybe if we get some subscribers, they can sponsor, because their speaker's $1,000. I don't have that kind of money. But
if anybody knows Soundbox, put a chime in. I'm trying to convince him. Heard it 3 times, and all 3 times.
They're really good, but they're like big, right? They're like this tall.
I mean, they're backpack. They are substantial. It's two 10-inch woofers.
But if we're out in the paddock, for the most part, we can't be thumping music like that.
We're not trying to thump, but we're trying to get clear audio. What would you say, Jason?
Kris is all about loud. Kris and I met because I used to have a yacht. And Kris talked me into adding the loudest horn that they make on the boat. And Chris's thing that he talked me into it, and this was kind of a joke, but it's a guy joke. He goes, listen, if you get this thing, I guarantee you tops will fly off. The first time we took the boat out,
that's right.
and we honked it, tops flew off. And it wasn't on our boat, it was other boats, their tops.
This is not a...
So. It was a
story.
It was
100%.
It was a true story. So, but pretty funny. So I don't know how organized it is right now because this is all of our cameras. We're trying to stay organized. Like I said, pull these out. So this will be a little more organized as we figure this stuff out. But we got 4 GoPros, 1, 2, 3 here. Some HDMI extenders which go over Cat 5. We have a suction cup mount, which right now we're not using. We're gonna figure out where those go. These are the HDMI Wi-Fi, or they're not Wi-Fi. They use their own frequency, I think. But it's a transmitter and receiver. This is what we use for the last track, and they work good. They say they're gonna reach 2.5 miles. It's over a mile, but I think it's 2.5. Line of sight, which again at the track, like Kris was explaining, you don't have line of sight there. It's a big track, it's 3.7 miles, obviously all the way around, but you know, our furthest is maybe a mile, maybe, I don't know, we'd have to pull it up on a Google map, but we have buildings in between, so therefore we don't have line of sight. When you're in line of sight, the quality is phenomenal. I mean, you can read my gauge clusters on the car, and then it starts getting pixelated and digitized, and then it'll cut out. So we're figuring out either getting it higher, or the other option is, like we said, the GoPro has an option for live streaming, but we need to test that. The car does have its own hotspot, or, I mean, I don't care, I'll pay for a hotspot to go in it if that will work. Our goal is just figuring it out, and all this stuff is just stuff we're testing and trying to figure it out. All right, so we're going to be installing a network on the trailer. So those of you who've been following us, we do already have a Ubiquiti network on the bus. On the bus, we have Dream Machine, we have access points inside and outside, and then we have a camera system that's on there. And on there, we have Starlink for our primary, and then we have LTE for our secondary. Internet on the bus actually works phenomenal. Anytime it's got line of sight, Starlink's kicking, working great. Like right now, we're actually at a storage facility where the bus and the trailer are both undercover. It automatically switches to the LTE, because obviously Starlink needs the sky. So in this, we're gonna do really similar, but for the most part, and I say the most part, probably 99.9% of the time, anywhere this trailer goes, the bus is also gonna be there. This is kind of like a support vehicle for the bus, right? So the bus will often go without the trailer. You know, we may do other trips and other stuff, family stuff, but anytime this trailer's going, that bus is going. What we're actually doing is we're going to be installing 7 cameras in this trailer. I think it's 6. We're gonna have 2 on the front sides aimed back, so that's 2. We're gonna have 2 on the back sides aimed forward. We're gonna have 1 on the back, and then 1 inside. I was thinking 7 because of front, but we don't need 1 on the front. So that's right, so we're gonna have 6 cameras on the trailer, 5 of which are outside, 1's gonna be inside, and really just for 2 reasons. 1, for security, but 2, for when we're trailering this thing. I mean, we're long. And so having that footage, being able to see the cameras on the trailer and everything, I like it much better than just doing a typical wireless camera system that you can put on a trailer. We ended up going with the turrets, which are made by Unifi. A really good product. I've probably myself installed at my offices. My home has this. The bus, we just did it. I mean, I've probably bought 50 of these cameras, at least. More. I bought more. Unfortunately, I bought more. They do phenomenal. This is our access point, which will be in here. So this is their...
what you saw on
the bus.
Inside the bus.
So this is a U7 Pro, a very powerful one. We're gonna try and just do one on the inside of this. We'll see how it goes. This big trailer is all aluminum. It's like a big Faraday cage. So we'll see how it does. And then we have just a small PoE switch. So the goal is we're going to have this access point, we'll be able to connect at all times to the bus as long as it's within range. If it's within range, all of these cameras are connected automatically to that Dream Machine, all wirelessly. It's able to record on the Dream Machine that's on the bus, which is the NVR. It's able to be viewed on all the TVs there. It's able to be accessed, viewed remotely, everything. When we're trailering, because of redundancy, we don't want to just rely on wireless connection. On the front of this trailer, we will have a Cat 5 jack that then can connect into a Cat 5 jack right on the bus, therefore making it a hard connection versus wireless. because if we're driving and we're using those cameras for backing up or something, we don't want to be counting on a wireless connection in case there's frequency or interference or something and have something go out. So, and then as soon as you disconnect that wire, you'll know nothing as long as the bus is within location to it, which is a really neat thing that Unifi does. I'm sure some other systems do it, but Unifi does a really phenomenal job of it. You can essentially daisy chain these things off and combine the networks, which is cool. All of that stuff we're going to be mounting up in this area somehow, somewhere. I leave that to Kris. Kris is really the one that's, I mean, he's phenomenal at wiring stuff. I mean, this is what he's done for a profession for most of his life. You guys that don't know, I mean, he's wired jets. His main profession now is wiring yachts. So that's why when you see his stuff, for the most part, it's really clean. And the stuff you've seen so far, you can't even really judge because we're not even fully done yet. But it's very clean, very easy to work on and troubleshoot. And he's not a zip tie guy. You know, he usually cusses when, you know, a lot of people clean up all their wiring with zip ties. They go in and they put 52 zip ties, which is amazing and it looks great until you have a wire that fails or you have a problem and you need to diagnose, and now you have to cut 52 zip ties and everything's in shambles. And so he does, and you guys will probably see it in some of his stuff, he uses these really awesome little clamp style things for running wire. He does it in yachts and stuff, and it's what's done in most of those type of environments, which we've already done in this. So we'll show that, we'll shoot some B-roll to show you that. So, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the stuff what we're doing in here.
This is just gonna be storage. These other two cabinets are just storage at the moment. This is the B-roll of the clamp.
B-roll of clamps.
This is just showing you how they operate. Pull a wire, and you have access to all the wires. When you're done, that clamp goes back, so it's just wire management.
All right, so this is the bathroom. Glorious, right? We haven't done much cleanup since the last track day. Obviously, when we get to the track, none of this stuff's in here. This right now is the pole that we had the streamer attached to. We probably are abandoning this specific pole because it's only, I think, 7 or 8 feet based on looking at it right now. And we need like 30 or 40 feet to be able to make it work. So this is gonna come out. All of this stuff, you can see the cables are just kind of roughly run up. Again, we were testing stuff, so this isn't what it will be when it's done. In here, we got oil change for the bus. Anyway, we got stuff we gotta do.
This is a new addition.
We got a toilet paper holder with a phone holder because who doesn't need somewhere to set your phone?
Nice place for a phone. Well, you got your new fancy brush that doesn't have those
It's brand new.
piece of junk bristles that just fall apart on you.
And so we did two soap dispensers.
What is that monstrosity, Jason?
Oh, well, hold on. Let me show you.
Just kidding.
Oh,
So convenient.
we did 2 soap dispensers.
Wait. How much is one of them things?
It was cheap. They were like 40 bucks.
40 bucks.
40 bucks,
And you
and
don't have to change your paper towel roll for
and I happened to
that's the second life of the trailer.
and I happened to install these same ones at my office. So I just happened to go to the office and grab some of my paper towels.
So that was free. Business.
I paid for them. I own the business. But 2 soap dispensers,
Oh,
again.
wait. This is the super cool part. What's that orange stuff?
That's goop.
Yeah.
The orange goop. The orange goop.
Hand cleaner.
Yeah, hand cleaner and then regular soap, and then I need to put batteries in them, but they're just nice so you can. Our stuff doing this, it's just trying to make stuff easy. Like I want easy. So that's a trash can. We gotta figure out where we're doing that. And then we put in some holder things there. So Kris, at the last track day, my family was there. Kris and his daughter stayed in the trailer. They really roughed it. It wasn't so bad, but I mean, we had to blow up mattress and stuff. How was the bathroom? I mean, you used the shower. You were cautious on water and stuff because you didn't know, like,
Right.
which you didn't use hardly any.
Yeah, I kind of I did a military shower because I'm from the military, so I splashed the water on, got wet, scrubbed, lathered, splashed the water off.
You could have pretty much taken a real shower.
But I definitely could have.
Because our tank was only half. Our tank was half full, and it's still.
I don't even think it went down.
So that's good. So you used that, and that was good. Hot water was good.
Yep, hot water.
So we had hot water heaters under here. We can actually show that. Not that it's so fancy. We got some soap stuff down there. So this is our fresh water tank here. The water heater here.
It is an instant hot, but it's an instant hot with a actual, what was it, 10 gallon tank?
Yeah, I think maybe 10. I think it's 10. So
The only thing that's that reminds you that you're on an RV or a trailer.
You hear the thumping.
The fact that you hear the pump.
yeah, and that's not even all RVs. They installed a 120 volt pump, which is I'm okay with because we always have 120 volt. Usually on something like this, you can put a 12 volt. Regardless, doesn't matter. But you hear it come on and off if you can hear it. Anyway, not a big deal. Not a big deal, but you hear it come on and off as it's running. We just filled up the tank, now we gotta go empty it again. No, No, it actually has big tanks. They do need to install another light in here. We've talked about that. I did add a shut off for the water head up there, which we do typically in any of the buses or RVs when you do that. So if you are showering and you are trying to conserve water, you can turn it off right at the nozzle.
Instead of losing your temperature control.
Correct. That's basically it as far as the bathroom. It's a mess right now, but we'll get that cleaned up.
More your way, or are you good?
That's as far as it can come because it hits at the top.
Up a little bit, or are you good?
Trying to see.
Down a little bit. Right there.
Yeah, I think that grabbed. What do you think?
Yeah, that grabbed.
Switch places.
Got an official tire rack. What do you think? You think it'll hold it?
Oh, it'll definitely hold. I like how you're getting a little puckered up though, thinking, is there wide tires?
Is there clearance? Yeah, you can see a little bit of clearance in there. I think that's about, oh yeah, there's a gap. 1/8 of an inch. We measured just right. Measure 3 times or maybe once.
I like how we have our own lighting for the tires.
Yeah, lighting.
That kind of...
They give that back halo effect. Tire rack is complete. We're gonna be getting wheels for these ones tomorrow. Both tire racks installed.